You ever have one of those weeks where you grind like crazy, do extra shifts, drive late into the night for Uber or DoorDash, then you finally sit on the edge of your bed, open your banking app, and it still doesn't feel like enough? The number staring back at you doesn't match how tired your body feels. Rent is coming, your card payment is around the corner, someone's birthday is this weekend, and your income is basically, surprise, here's whatever showed up. If that's you, I want you to know something right away. You're not crazy, you're not lazy, and you're definitely not alone. Trying to budget when you work hourly or gig jobs is a totally different game than budgeting on a fixed salary. Most of the advice out there is written for people who get the exact same paycheck every 2 weeks. That's not your life. Your income looks like a heart monitor. So in this video, we're going to build a budget that actually works for you. Not for some imaginary office worker with a steady paycheck, but for someone who drives Uber, delivers food, works retail, picks up shifts when they can, or all of the above. By the time we're done, you'll have a simple way to turn a roller coaster income into something that feels more steady and less stressful. You'll know how to cover bills, how to handle slow weeks, how to keep your car and your body from collapsing, and how to actually get ahead instead of always catching up. Hey, I'm Dylan from Dylan Investments. Money talks, I translate it for you. Let's sit at your kitchen table and fix this. Let's start with the real pain. The problem isn't just that your income changes. The problem is that your bills don't. Your landlord doesn't care that Uber was dead this week. Your car payment, your phone, your insurance, your subscriptions, all of that wants the same amount of money every month. So what ends up happening is you have big weeks and small weeks, but the bills don't match the timing, and you feel like you're always behind, even when you're working a ton. Here's where it gets interesting. Most people in your situation think they have a discipline problem. They tell themselves, I just need to try harder, stop wasting money, work more hours. And yeah, effort matters. But the deeper problem is usually that you're trying to use a salary person budget on a gig worker life. It's like trying to use a map of New York to drive around Los Angeles. It doesn't matter how focused you are, the map is wrong. So we're going to change the map. The big idea I want to give you is this. Your income can be unstable, but your plan can be stable. Your dollars might show up on different days and in different amounts, but you can still make them do the same jobs in the same order. That's how you get control back. To make this real, let me tell you about a guy I know. We'll call him Jason. Jason drives Uber and Lyft. Some weeks he absolutely crushes it. Surge pricing on a Saturday, airport runs on a Sunday. He'll bring in what looks like a full-time paycheck in just a few days. Other weeks, it rains at the wrong time, or he gets sick, or the app just feels dead. His income graph looks like mountains and valleys. Every time he has a mount a week, he feels rich for a minute. He pays a couple of late bills, treats himself, maybe grabs nicer food instead of cooking, throws some cash at debt. Then the valley week hits. Suddenly, he's putting gas on a credit card, transferring from savings back to checking, stressing at 3 in the morning. And he keeps asking himself, why can't I get ahead if I'm working this much? Here's the twist. Jason doesn't have an earning problem. He has a smoothing problem. He doesn't have a way to turn those mountains and valleys into a steady flow. And the same might be true for you. So let's build the system Jason needed. The first thing I'd do if I were sitting across from you is figure out your survival number. Not your dream lifestyle, not the month where you eat out 4 nights a week, just the minimum realistic amount you need each month to stay afloat and out of trouble. That's your rent or part of the rent if you split it, basic groceries, gas, car payment, minimums on debt, your phone, your insurance, and the absolute essentials like electricity and water. You don't have to make this perfect. Grab a piece of paper or your notes app and list what absolutely has to get paid so you're not evicted, hungry, or losing transportation. Add it up. That number is your floor. If your income doesn't at least cover that, you're going to feel like you're drowning no matter what. Now, on the other side, we look at your income. And here's a mistake almost everyone makes. They plan around their best weeks. They say, oh yeah, last weekend I made $800. I'll just do that every week. Then real life shows up, and that doesn't happen. So I want you to plan around your worst reasonable weeks, not your best. Look back at the last 2 or 3 months. For each week, write down what you actually took home after the platform took its cut. You're not doing tax-level math here, just your real deposits. You're going to see some good weeks and some not-so-great ones. Instead of letting every deposit hit your main checking account and hoping you don't overspend, you treat your gig and hourly income like business revenue. All the money you earn lands in one catch account. From that account, you pay yourself the same amount every week or every 2 weeks into a spending account that covers your bills and everyday life. When you have big weeks, the extra sits in the catch account as a buffer. When you have slow weeks, that buffer helps you keep paying yourself the same amount. To make it concrete, imagine all your gig payouts and hourly paychecks go into account A. You decide, based on your survival number and some breathing room, that you want to pay yourself $600 a week into account B. When a good week comes and you earn $800, all $800 lands in A, and you move $600 to B. $200 stays behind as padding. When a slow week hits and you only earn $400, you still move $600 from A to B. $200 of that came from the buffer you built on the good week. Over time, your goal is to build that buffer big enough that you can pay yourself the same paycheck, even if you have a couple of weak weeks in a row. That's how you make an unpredictable income feel more predictable. Now, that solves the timing problem, but we still have the where's my money going problem. Because even if you smooth out the flow, if your dollars don't have jobs, they wander off. So once money lands in your spending account, we need to decide what those dollars are going to do in the same order every time. Think of your money like a line of workers waiting to clock in. You're the manager. First, you assign people to keep the lights on, then to keep the car running, then to feed everyone, then to little extras. If there are any workers left after that, they get assigned to future goals. If there aren't, they don't magically appear. You just can't hire money that doesn't exist. Practically, this means whenever your paycheck hits your spending account, you run through the same mental checklist. You cover your must-pay bills that are coming due before your next paycheck. You refill groceries and gas. You make your minimum debt payments. You top up a few key buckets or mini savings piles I really want you to have. A car fund, a small emergency buffer, and for gig workers, a tax fund. Let's talk about that tax piece for a second, because this is where things quietly go wrong for a lot of Uber and DoorDash drivers. When you're self-employed or doing gig work, the platforms usually don't withhold taxes for you. That means you can feel rich during the year, then get smacked in the face by a tax bill later. That's not a moral failure. That's a system that's easy to misunderstand. A simple way to protect yourself is to skim off a piece of your income into a separate tax bucket every time money hits your catch account. A lot of people in the gig world use something like 20 to 30% of what's left after gas and basic business costs. But the exact number depends on your situation, your state, and whether you have other income. I'd always tell you to talk to a tax pro if you can. But the bigger point is treat taxes as a bill that's already there, not a surprise that might show up someday. Next is your car. If you're driving for Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Instacart, your car is not just a car. It's your business partner. Every mile you drive is earning you money, but also slowly killing that car. Tires wear out, brakes go, oil changes, random repairs, and eventually you'll either need major work or a different car. If you don't plan for that, it feels like a sudden emergency, even though it was guaranteed to happen. So I want you to have a little car bucket where you're putting money regularly. It doesn't have to be huge at first. It could be $5 or $10 here and there, or a small amount per ride or per day. But it needs to exist, and it needs to be separate from your normal spending. That way, when you blow a tire or need new brakes, you're not raiding rent money or reaching for a credit card you're trying to pay down. Remember Jason? There was a week where he was killing it. Surge pricing, weekend events, the whole thing. Then one night, his check engine light came on, and his car started making a noise that sounded like a coffee can full of rocks. He ignored it for a few days because he needed the income. Then the car just refused to start. The repair bill basically ate his entire good week, and then some, and he lost days of work on top of it. That wasn't just bad luck. That was a car bucket that never existed. If you only remember one idea from this video, let it be this. Every dollar needs a job before it leaves your account. Not after. Not, I'll see what's left and then figure it out. The gig life doesn't leave you leftovers. You have to assign them on purpose. Now, the way you keep track of all this doesn't have to be fancy. You can use a budgeting app. You can use digital envelopes in an online bank, where you can literally do it on paper and keep a running tally. The tool is less important than the habit. What matters is that on a regular schedule, you look at what came in, you move money into your tax and car buckets, you cover your must-pay bills, and then you decide what's safe to spend on everything else. Let's go one level deeper and talk about your weekly rhythm, because gig and hourly life pulls you into a day-to-day mindset. You're always thinking, what do I need to make today? But your bills are not daily. They're monthly or bi-weekly. So to connect those two worlds, I want you to pick one money day each week. Maybe it's Sunday night before you go to bed. Maybe it's Monday morning with your coffee. On your money day, you sit down for 10 or 15 minutes and do the same little ritual. You check how much landed in your catch account this week. You move your chosen paycheck amount into your spending account. You skim off your tax percentage and move it to that bucket. You send a small amount to your car and emergency buckets. You look at what bills are due before the next money day. You pay or set aside for them, and whatever is left becomes your flexible spending for the week. This is where it starts to feel less like chaos and more like running your own small business. Because that's what you are. You're the owner, the worker, the finance department, and the risk manager. No one's going to come do this for you, but you also don't need to be a Wall Street analyst. You just need a simple, repeatable routine. Now, let's rehook back to that moment when you opened your banking app and felt sick. That feeling comes from uncertainty. I don't know if I can pay this. I don't know if I made enough. I don't know what's hiding around the corner. The whole point of this system is to turn that feeling into, I know what's coming, I know what I'm paying myself, and I know what my next move is if things slow down. There's another trap I want to warn you about. The busy but broke trap. This is when you're putting in a ton of hours, but because you're not tracking your real costs, you're effectively working for way less than you think. Maybe you bring in $1,000 in a week from driving, and you feel amazing. But then you subtract gas, extra maintenance, self-employment taxes, and the random food you bought between rides. Suddenly, what you really kept might be more like 500 or 600, and you did it all in 60 or 70 hours. One of the most powerful things you could do is run a one-week experiment. For just 1 week, track your numbers like you're doing a little science project on your own life. Write down how much you earn each day from each app or job. Track how much you spend on gas and tolls. Track any extra food you buy because you're out working. At the end of the week, subtract those costs from your total earnings. Then divide by the hours you actually worked to see your real hourly rate. This is the part most people never see. Once you know your real hourly rate after costs, you can make smarter choices. You might realize that chasing late-night surge pricing isn't worth it if it destroys your sleep and your car. Or that one app pays less than you thought once you factor in distance. Whether you're better off stacking certain jobs together instead of jumping between them. And here's how this ties back to budgeting. If you know that, after all costs, you're realistically keeping, let's say, $15 an hour on average, and your survival number is $1,800 a month, you could do the math. You know roughly how many hours you need to hit in a month. You know whether your current schedule is enough, or if you need either more hours or more pay per hour. It stops being a vague anxiety and becomes a clear target. Let me bring in another example. I have a friend, we'll call him David. He works a retail job 30 hours a week and does DoorDash on nights and weekends. For years, he felt like he was constantly hustling and never getting ahead. Once he tracked his real numbers, he realized his retail job, while not glamorous, gave him predictable income and benefits, while his DoorDash income was all over the place and, after costs, sometimes wasn't worth the extra miles he was driving. So he built a plan where his retail paycheck covered his fixed bills and basic groceries. His DoorDash income became his flex money and his savings engine. But the key was he stopped letting DoorDash money mix randomly with everything else. It hit a catch account. He moved a fixed amount every week into his spending account, and he assigned the rest to debt and savings. Within a year, he had a real emergency fund for the first time, and his credit cards were finally moving in the right direction. Here's where this gets hopeful for you. You don't need perfect consistency in your income to feel stable. You just need consistency in your decisions. Someone with a very stable salary but terrible money habits can feel more stressed than a gig worker with a solid system. You have more control than you think. Let's talk quickly about lifestyle spending, because life is more than just bills and gas. One mistake a lot of people make when they're trying to be good with money is they cut all fun to zero. That works for about 3 days, then they snap, overspend, feel guilty, and go back to chaos. I'd rather see you give fun a smaller, realistic slot in your budget every week than pretend you're a robot. So when your paycheck hits your spending account and you've covered your must-pays and your key buckets, look at what's left and consciously carve out a tiny guilt-free amount. It might be $20 this week, it might be 50, it might be 10. The number doesn't matter as much as the decision. When that money is gone, that's it until next week. But while it's there, you use it without beating yourself up. Now, what happens when things go really wrong? You get sick, your car is in the shop, the apps are slow, your hours get cut. This is where your future self will be incredibly grateful if you've been building even the tiniest buffer. The first place you go in a bad month is that buffer, not your credit card. You might temporarily drop your weekly paycheck to a lower number to stretch the buffer while you recover or find more hours. You might pause extra debt payments and just stick to minimums. You might shrink fun, spending close to zero for a bit. The key is that you're moving the levers on purpose instead of just letting the disaster toss you around. Remember that money day we talked about earlier? In tough times, that ritual becomes even more important. Instead of thinking, oh no, everything's falling apart, you sit down and ask, what do I have? What absolutely has to be paid this week? What can wait? What do I cut for now? And what's the next best move I can make? That turn from panic to problem solving is huge. If this is making a few things click for you, save this video so you can come back to it the next time you're stressed about income, and maybe share it with that one friend who's always in their car but never seems to catch a break. Before we wrap up, I want to touch on one more hidden system that affects gig and hourly workers: how the apps and companies design incentives. They're very good at getting you to think in terms of daily challenges, streaks, and bonuses. Do 3 more rides, and we'll give you an extra $15. Stay on until midnight and unlock this boost. That can be useful, but only if it fits your bigger plan. If you're chasing every little challenge at the cost of your sleep, your health, or your car, you might be earning pennies more now to pay dollars later. When you look at your week on your money day, ask yourself, did these bonuses actually move my weekly take-home up in a meaningful way? Or did they just push me into more gas, more wear and tear, and worse decisions? You're allowed to say no to an incentive that doesn't fit your real life. So let's pull all this together. You're working hourly or gig jobs. Your income jumps around. That's reality. But here's what you can do about it. You figure out your survival number so you know what you're aiming to cover. You base your plans on realistic, not fantasy, income. You let all your earnings land in a catch account. Then you pay yourself a steady paycheck into a spending account on a weekly rhythm. Every money day, you assign your dollars in the same order. Taxes and car for gigging, must-pay bills, groceries and gas, a tiny bit of fun, and then savings or debt if there's anything left. You build a buffer slowly so your good weeks protect your bad weeks. You track your real hourly earnings for at least 1 week, so you aren't lying to yourself about what your time is worth. You listen to what the apps are trying to make you do, but you still make your own decisions. And you accept that even if your income is wild, your system doesn't have to be. You might still have months that are tight. You might still have surprise expenses. None of this is magic. But instead of feeling like you're driving at night with your headlights off, you'll actually see the road. And that changes everything. If you want to go deeper on this, the next thing you should understand is how to build a small emergency fund and deal with debt when your income is unpredictable. That's exactly what I break down in another video. So if that's your next battle, make sure you check it out after this. You work hard. You deserve a plan that works as hard as you do. I'm Dylan from Dylan Investments. Money talks, and I'll keep translating it for you. Have a good one, my friend.